All right, the statistics are kind of alarming. Last year, due to the pandemic, restaurant revenues dropped from 20 to 70%, depending on your news source and who you choose to listen to. This is gutting most every restaurant enterprise in America, except pizza. Last year, there was one restaurant menu item that ranked number 3 on the list of the most popular items served at full service restaurants, and number 2 on the list of the items most popular at limited service restaurants. Again, you guessed it, pizza. Everybody loves pizza, especially at night. And many restaurants, bars, and caterers and food trucks are participating in this pandemic pizza profitability, let's call it. And that's what we'll be talking about today. Welcome to That's Amore. Dallas Loves Pizza at Night, brought to you by the all-volunteer 24-Hour Dallas. The mission of 24-Hour Dallas is to advocate for a nighttime Dallas that is safer, more inclusive, and more culturally and economically vibrant for businesses, residents, and guests. 24-Hour Dallas believes that the nighttime is for everyone and always asks the question, what kind of city do you want to be at night? Our guests today are David Cole, who along with his 3 brothers, George, Mike, and Daryl, founded Fratelli in Irving in 1987. Today, they have grown to 20 or so locations across Texas. And then early on, I believe David and his brother Mike attended Dallas College's terrific El Centro culinary program in order to boost their skills. But last year, David received a 2020 Hall of Honors award from the Texas Restaurant Association. That's how we met, is through that restaurant association. Sammy Mandell put it all on the line in 2007 to start Greenville Avenue Pizza Company, or GAPCo. Living on his wife Molly's teaching salary, as I recall, and even getting his car repoed at one point, Sammy hung in there. And 11 years later, the industry's benchmark magazine, Pizza Today, named Sammy its first Young Entrepreneur of the Year. Khanh Nguyen was born in Vietnam, arrived in the States after being picked up by American battleships after the fall of Saigon in 1975. I wasn't born yet. And eventually graduating law school at the University of Texas, that other university, and working as a lawyer. During a bit of a break, he opened Zalat, a Vietnamese and karaoke restaurant, and then in 2015 opened his first Zalat pizza, which has grown to 10 locations. Now, in full disclosure, Khanh serves with me on the board of 24-Hour Dallas, and his company Zalat's a member of our organization, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be any nicer to him. My name is Randall White. I'm a volunteer, and I am president of the board and founder of 24-Hour Dallas. Now, before we begin, we'll talk with each of our guests, and then there'll be time for our panelists to talk with each other or answer your questions. You can submit your questions using the Zoom chat, and we'll get to as many as we can. By Wednesday, we'll post this webinar to our website and to our YouTube channel. And for our panelists, here's who's on the Zoom call right now. We have quite a few restaurateurs, several folks kind of curious about how you've managed success, I suppose. Several industry vendors, I can see, probably some who do business with you. Some of your colleagues in your own businesses, some marketing and PR professionals, because we have learned that that's played a big role during the pandemic. And we also have on the call more than one of your brothers, David. So they're keeping an eye on you. Gentlemen, welcome. I've been looking forward to this for some time. Each of you has played a role in the 5-year evolution of 24-Hour Dallas. So thank you for that. David, I'm going to begin with you. Pizza and the pandemic. The numbers are alarming, and yet pizza, aside from the obvious differences of a full sit-down restaurant and pizza proprietorships, which are largely to-go, what are some of the successes that have helped the pizza industry be so steady during this time?
Well, first of all, I think that we have already, our niche was getting pizza to people whenever they wanted them, wherever they were. we started curbside delivery in 1992 when a pregnant woman called the store and said, "Hey, I'm out front and my babies are in the car. I don't want to get out. Will you bring it to the car?" So we didn't call it curbside delivery. We just called it customer service, and we started doing it. But having to go out and market, having to make sure that all your employees followed, whether you called them protocols or procedures within your store. I think we're already pretty much set up for this type of lifestyle. The only thing that we've had to get used to was probably before the pandemic was, besides just competing with Asian food and pizza, now we're having to compete against every food type there is, and every restaurant that that's open has now for the last year tried some type of delivery.
Right, right. Oh, and so talk to me a little bit about that. The pandemic completely forced the business model, changed the business model. And in order to kind of stay afloat, suddenly everybody else is doing what perhaps you've been doing all along. Your delivery services, do you use third party, or do you do your own pizza delivery, David?
No, we do our own pizza delivery. The only third party delivery is, apologize for maybe a looser term, but they pirate anybody they want to. We don't pay them any fees, but they still deliver where we won't deliver. And we have a 10-minute drive time that we make sure that the pizza is hot to get to the customer. And then if Grubhub or Uber Eats wants to put our menu on their site and one of our customers outside the delivery area sees it, then they can get it from them. But we only hire our delivery drivers to deliver our food.
Well, now let's talk about that for a little bit, because I remember before the pandemic, this was quite a topic among restaurateurs about third-party delivery services and how much of the margin that would eat into your business. And I remember some restaurants telling me, by the time they get a surcharge from me or whatever they get off of the customer in delivery, it's not very profitable for the restaurant, but you're doing your own. And then there are these outside entities that are putting your menu up on their website. If you had a choice, you would prefer people to come right to you, right?
Sure.
And what has been the industry's response to third-party vendors like that? I mean, some people use them and some people, like perhaps you, would prefer not, right?
Right. We decided, we were delivering pizza before there was a third-party delivery company. Right. So I think we had one called On Trays, and they took a server tray and covered it up. But even then, we tried that through our full service restaurant, which we don't have one anymore. And even those drivers would spill the food, dump the food, something, we'd get complaints about that. So we didn't do it very long at all. We know
you don't have quality control then, and that's important.
That's right. And we don't know who is carrying our food around. So our employees are trained in every aspect of our operation. And even more so, we trained them on how to deliver to a home. No parking in the driveway. If a child opens the door, you ask for the parents. There's a lot of things that we've had to do the last 30 years that probably some of these third-party companies have never even thought of.
Right. And I suppose that's even more important now during the pandemic. You're probably teaching certain health protocols. I would trust that your deliverers are not speeding down the wrong side of the street like some I've seen in my neighborhood. But do you go through with your delivery crew about pandemic protocols at all?
Oh, sure. They wear gloves when needed. They wear a mask constantly. We still have a lot of leave it on the table outside the door, leave it on my doorstep, that sort of thing. So we have to follow all those. And sometimes it's hard for a delivery driver that if someone calls in and uses a credit card and the driver's dependent on that tip and the people just say, leave it at the door, then we know that we're probably not going to get a tip on that delivery because the people aren't going to sign the credit card slip.
Right.
So there are certain things that they're having to, what I would call roll with the punches now that we didn't have to a year ago.
Right, right. How has your workforce, have you had to reduce your workforce as a result of the pandemic, David?
Our workforce reduced itself when the first scare came out. We don't, we may have some people that are 40 and over that are, this is their second act and they're delivering pizzas or they're trying to buy a new car. But most of our managers are in their 20s and 30s. And a lot of them, when they heard about the pandemic and the, government shut down restaurants, and they thought they were in the wrong business to be in. So they left and they went to go work in huge warehouses like Amazon that had 2,000 employees instead of 5 employees inside a pizza place. Most of those had come back, but probably the biggest thing was juggling the so-and-so has been, close to someone that had COVID 2 weeks ago and not sure what they want to do. But we're always hiring drivers, we're always hiring managers, and we'll take, we always need people. We're still growing. We've opened 2 locations during the pandemic. So we did not have to reduce, we needed to expand our work.
Okay, and so you're probably hiring right now in case we have any of our service industry friends that would be looking for work.
Sure.
And you have how many locations?
Page and fill out an application.
Okay, and you have how many locations right now? You've got most are in North Texas, but you've expanded statewide, right?
Yeah, we have 21 total. We have one in Westlake, Austin Westlake, that should open within maybe a month, and that'll give us 22. We still have 3 or 4 others already sold that haven't opened yet, but my brothers and I, we operate 9 at this time. Right.
Well, tell me just quickly, from kind of the idea to the launch, I don't have any idea how old you and your brothers were. I love the 4 photographs the photographs of the 4 of you that are very much part of the culture of Fratelli, the brothers, right? But right. From idea to where you got started, how did that come about? Whose idea was it? It
was a culmination of all of us. I think my brother Mike and I drove that decision. All 4 of us worked for my Uncle Joe and my cousin Corky Campese at their 5610 Mockingbird location.
I don't think I realized that there was that.
Oh yeah, so my Aunt Marie Cole married Joe Campese. So there was always a lot more Coles working on Mockingbird than there was Campese, just because we outnumbered them 15-1. So I started there 2 days after I graduated from high school in 1980, got finished with El Centro, went back, was going to go work at some other restaurants, and they wanted me to work 60 hours a week and pay me about $15,000 a year. Well, I like to tip money at Campese's a lot better. So I worked there until my brother Mike got out of El Centro and we could design our own. And so we opened in July of '87. We were 22, 23, 24, and 26.
Oh my goodness. And are all of you trained as chefs or just 2 of you? Or?
Mike and I were the only ones that went to culinary school. Everybody had to learn to cook. Right. We didn't let my brother George stay in the kitchen as long as the rest of them. But we learned very quickly that everybody has their strengths and their weaknesses, and we need to stick with strengths.
Yeah, sure. Well, and I on behalf of all the folks in the restaurant industry, you've been very active on behalf of the restaurant industry in terms of advocacy and at the local and the state, and I would suspect even at the national level. I think you and I combed the halls once at the U.S. Capitol, back when it was safe to do that. And but we appreciate that. I'm sure the industry appreciates that very much in your advocacy. One last question of you, and then I'll jump to Sammy. David, the thing I remember most about my first encounter with Fratelli was the location in Uptown. I stumbled in there one day and thought, oh my gosh, I'm in heaven. And the thing that not only was the pizza delicious, but I also had a sense that you were having a role that Fratelli was having a role in urban development. This was a storefront in the middle of an area that was just beginning to burgeon. And I'm noticing nationwide that there seems to be a role for the pizza business in what do they call it, burgeoning neighborhoods. Do you do that strategically?
Oh, sure. One thing is that we are involved in our lease is in a apartment building that is high density with retail on the bottom and residents on top. So your customer base is right there in the palm of your hand. Early on with that uptown location, we started doing a thing with Big Ink PR, Jeffrey Arbro, called Smooch Your Pooch, because there was so many people in the uptown area that walk their dogs every night. So on Wednesdays during, we called it Dogtoberfest, and on nights, if you brought your dog in and gave your dog a kiss, then you got a free pizza. And we must have gave away 75, 100 pizzas every Wednesday. And then we started doing it at every location, and it was huge. But those people are down there for that social aspect. And so we like that. The same thing with our downtown location.
Sure.
They have people walk up and down that even though we've been in uptown since the early to mid 2000s, they moved to downtown and hadn't seen us before. So then they stumble upon us. So okay. It's a location that people usually tend to come, they're transplants. They come from everywhere just to work. And then they find us. If they come after 11 o'clock, they're going to find Sammy or Khanh because we're closed and they like to stay up late and we don't. We're old.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Well, nice pitch to Sammy here. Sammy, I know it was a hard go at first. And let this be my shout out to your wife, Molly, for the teacher income supporting you. God bless teachers when you first started out. Say we have an entrepreneur watching, Sammy, and somebody's out there taking notes. Tell us about launching Greenville Avenue Pizza Company and the kind of twists and turns you encountered until you received those industry honors in 2018. You had to pivot a few times. Tell us, and Greenville Avenue was going through shifts and changes. Talk about that.
Yeah, so, I always tell people that I got into this business really being an entrepreneur, not a restaurateur. Prior to owning Greenville Avenue Pizza Company, I only had 3 months as a server at Chili's. So that was it. So I had to learn the hard way and make every single mistake that I could. But I was actually in the ATM business, and I owned a number of ATM machines down here on Lowest Greenville and on Lower. I saw a demand for late night pizza. There wasn't one down here at the time. And so I was with my older brother at the time, and he helped me for the first 3 years, really get it going. And we worked hard together to make it happen. And, years down the road, it's hard working with family, but I kept this thing going and, really struggled along the way. But one of the things that I had to experience in the early stages was we opened in 2007. So a little before the recession. And when the recession hit, nobody was really coming out. And that was really when delivery was born. I mean, we had been doing it, but there wasn't a lot of focus on it. And so my focus really shifted to delivery probably around 2010, and really put more and more emphasis on it every single year to be able to get our product to the customers, since they were not coming out. And so even these challenges that I experienced, a lot of these were very, to me, entrepreneurial based challenges. And it's those challenges that I feel helped pave the way for me to survive through COVID. So a lot of the challenges that really came our way this past year, we were already built to withstand and surpass this. It was a challenge closing the dining rooms and kind of navigating that. But outside of it all, I mean, those decisions that I made back in 2010 and on really led to our success now. And I'm talking, even things like our technology. So our point of sale has always been delivery based. It's not just a standard, point of sale that doesn't have delivery maps or tracks drivers. My point of sale does all of that. And so that's always been at the core of our model, because we've had delivery drivers. So a lot of the way our kitchens are set up, a lot of the way that we just operate our business is around having delivery drivers, getting food to the guest. And again, it's those things that led to our success,
Well, let's talk a little bit. One of the interesting things I've read in studying what's going on in the pizza industry compared to the restaurant industry is restaurants had to catch up. You guys already had kind of digital advantage. Most of you already had kind of websites and the ability to order online and social media campaigns and the whole kind of apps and all of this that helped you kind of be ahead. So tell us a little bit about, and everybody else, like David was saying, was having to play catch up in that area. But tell us a little bit about how that aspect, how you've been standing there. Have other restaurateurs come to you and said, how are you doing this? Who you're working with? What's going on? Because you have created an online persona that I think adds to your success. Correct?
Yeah, for sure. On that note, and we're right when the pandemic happened. I had a number of friends in the business that reached out to me that hadn't done delivery. And they were asking, what do we need to do to make this happen? What are your suggestions? What advice do you have? Really trying to pick my brain on how they could pivot to help their own businesses. One of the biggest things that I noticed, there was really two things. So one, everybody's point of sale, like I said, really wasn't equipped to deal with delivery in-house. So a lot of places, can do, Uber Eats and whatnot, and you don't need all that technology. But if you're going to use your employees, then you really want to have that technology. So, at our locations, we have 2 locations that use Revention and another location that's going to use food tech. But those companies are robust in delivery. Another thing that they are robust in is the online ordering that's on the back side of them. So these point of sales not only come equipped with the delivery, I guess, dashboard that you need, but they also have the app that customers can order on, and it goes directly into your system. And that was what I noticed a lot of people didn't have. So all of my friends that were calling me, they just didn't have that technology that was equipped to be able to do this seamlessly. Everything was a hurdle. And so for us, it was not a hurdle. It was what we'd already been doing. So my suggestion to them was, hey, here's all the different point of sales you can look into. Here's what I recommend, and make sure you've got a platform on the back end that can take a online order where you don't have to go through another company to do that.
So it was worth your investment. It was worth your investment to zero in on the technology and the web communications and the app and all that kind of stuff. That has paid off.
Exactly. And so, and then to your other question on the marketing piece. So, my wife, when she got out of teaching, it was like, hey, come on board, run the social media. And she's been doing that now for, I guess, at least 7 years. And she does like an awesome job at it. I mean, if you go through our stuff, you'll see all of our content that she does. And then as a couple of years went down the road, I had a high school friend named Phil that I approached to come on as my creative director to really allow me to get a lot of my creativity and ideas and really try to focus on the vision, not just of our food, but really of who we are and what we stand for as a brand.
Well, let's talk about that. You managed, as have Khanh. The thing I've loved in kind of promoting this was, never trust around pizza, which is Fratelli's message, your pizza slayer message, and Khan's pizza zealot message. But in your instance with the pizza slayer, that has become a brand almost like is important to your GAPCo as like Southwest Airlines has this brand, you know? So talk about the Pizza Slayer. What has that done to make your bottom line better?
Sure, sure. Well, so, you know, as I spent, you know, many hours on the line with the crew, I mean, especially in those early days, I mean, I was working 90-hour work weeks, making pizza right beside them. And a lot of the vision came from working side by side with them and just getting our asses kicked. I mean, making pizza till 4 a.m. in the morning, you know, not being able to take breaks. I mean, just getting beat up by pizza. And so the Pizza Slayer was really it really kind of became like its own thing, because it was intended, and it is intended still, to really shine a spotlight on our people and our crew. And at the time, you know, I mean, you go back to 2014, I mean, when all this kind of was, these ideas were really coming out. I mean, you know, that was kind of what we would chatter behind the line. You know, we had all these, you know, sayings that we had, and Pizza Slayer was one of them. And I really wanted to, you know, shine a light on our people. We do so much as restaurants to shine a light on our food, which of course, that's why we're in business. But to me, it was equally important to shine a light on the people behind the food, because at the end of the day, how much that person loves what they're doing and loves that food, that's going to translate through the food. So creating that Pizza Slayer brand, that was extremely important to me. And hands down, it has led to more popularity with our customers. And of course, that then translates to, you know, better top line sales, of course, more profit, because customers are supporting it. And I just love that we've created something around people, in addition to the great food that we have. And that's really what GAPCo is about, is trying to put our people on stage. If you go to the Greenville location or you go to the PV location, you walk in, the Pizza Slayers are the first people you see. And it's like that for a reason, and it will continue to be like that. We have a third location opening later this year in Richardson. You know, we call it the Slayer Layer, but that's where the Pizza Slayers are. And when people come in, it's that show. It's what we want people to see. We want them to see us working hard. We want them to you know, engage with Slayers as best they can. But it's really creating that, you know, customer experience inside the restaurants to also connect them to the people, not just the pizza.
And what makes a Slayer is the belt with the stuff and the tools. Is that it?
Yeah. So, well, after you go through all of your training, if you are good enough and fast enough, you become a Pizza Slayer, and that gets you a chef coat and our patented leather holster that houses a pizza cutter and dough knife. So you definitely stand out. Customers love it.
Kind of like getting the black belt in pizza.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
gotcha.
You don't want to mess with the Pizza Slayer.
Okay, let me ask this question of you. Is pizza really been pandemic proof?
I would say yes. So again, going back to entrepreneur, part of the, you know, one, I saw the demand, but in two, pizza is the #1 purchased food. I mean,
Sure.
and so that's why I got into it. And as we went through the recession, I mean, it was tough, but we were a new business still at that time. We got through it. But seeing what has happened during this pandemic, it just proves the stability of pizza. Very happy I'm in this model. At the end of the day, though, it's still a tough business. I mean, we have our challenges, just as any business does. Yeah, it's a good model to be in.
You do have one question that came on that asks, what point of sale software do you use, Sammy?
Yeah, so at my 2 current locations, I use Revention, and we're also dabbling with food tech.
Okay, there you go. There's your answer to your question, Matthew. All right, I'm going to move over to Khanh. Khanh, my man,
Hey,
Welcome from the far Northwest, the Canadian Northwest, it looks like. Tell me, you have an incredible story. And before we get into the pizza business side of things, what, if anything, do you remember about Saigon, the fall of Saigon, and the coming to America experience? Well, you were young.
I was 8. So not that young, not that young. I remember all of it. We're talking about pizza, so it's Zalat, and people ask me all the time where that name came from. And I'm a big believer in having not spending very much time coming up with names, because once people experience your business, that becomes associated with the name. So it's who you are in terms of your performance. So I hate the exercises where you spend weeks and weeks trying to come up with a name. So when we opened the restaurant, my first concept getting into the business is called Zalat. So Vietnamese restaurant. Zalat is the town where I'm from in Vietnam. So it's kind of like the hill country. It's the resort city in Vietnam. But my father was actually the governor of the Zalat province, and yeah, he was a general in the army. But I'll give you the quickie. We had airline reservations to get out of the country as the country was falling, and we got to the airport. And I've got a huge family, so they're not in the business with me like David has got his brothers. My siblings don't want anything to do with it. They had an intervention with me when I announced that I was going into this space. Like, why are you doing this? So
stick with law. Stick with law.
Exactly. But I'm number 8 of 9 kids.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got to the airport, and they had screw reservations and left 3 of us off. So this is like probably final 2 or 3 days of before the country fell on April 30th, and we found out that 3 of us couldn't go. So thank goodness my dad decided to not leave those 3 behind, because I was one of the 3 that didn't have a ticket. So we couldn't go that route. And so we had heard that all of the ships from around the world were congregating off the coast of Vietnam to pick up refugees. And so my dad said, hey, let's head out to the coastal towns. And we did, and got on a troop carrier and headed out to the Pacific. Got picked up by an American battleship. We had to, I still remember, on this little, just like you see the troop landers in the war movies. We got on one of those because they were on the beach, and we got on, and we got out and found an American battleship, and we had to climb up the side of an American battleship because they had the ropes down there, and you cannot imagine how tall an American battleship is. Until at 8 years old, you have to climb up the side of an American battleship. Anyway, so we got up there, and of course they didn't have any space for us. Everybody had to sleep on the decks. I never tell this into this much detail, but they didn't have any bathrooms that could handle all of us. So they had built makeshift porta potties off the side of the boat. And so, being a tiny 8-year-old Asian boy, I had to go to the restroom. And so it was basically a porta potty with a slat missing in the middle for you to go. And I could fit through the slat.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. Oh, no.
So that I'm not going to forget. I was like, oh my God, this is quite dangerous.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we were on the American battleship, and it took us, if you've seen that Ken Burns on Vietnam, we did the caravan of hundreds of ships that went to Manila, and then the Philippines said, no, keep going. So we had to keep going, and then we all got unloaded in Guam, where we stayed there for a couple months, where the American government decided what to do with all of us. So, and then half of us were shipped to Fort Chaffee in Arkansas, and then the other half went to Camp Pendleton in San Diego, and you had to wait there until somebody sponsored you out, because they didn't want to just, unleash hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese people not knowing English into, just the American countryside. And so all these churches stepped up, all these private citizens signed up to house Vietnamese folks into their homes for a few months to get everybody acclimated before we all left and made it on our own. And I will tell you, I think I'm speaking for most of the Vietnamese Americans who are over here. In our time of need, America picked us up, brought us in, made sure we're okay. So you're not going to find bigger patriots than the Vietnamese Americans who were given an opportunity to do well here.
Oh, I love that story, Khanh, and I'd never heard it until I just stumbled across it doing a little research for this. So you wound up growing up, I forget where you were, but you were in Boston at one point, and you wound up eventually in college at the University of Texas, where you studied law, and you came out, you're working in the corporate sector. Yeah. And then you decided to take a little bit of a sabbatical, and you were talking with your spouse or somebody at the time, and decided to go from that to Vietnamese cooking. What was the, tell me about that.
I'll give you the short story on this. I am the most accidental of accidental restaurateurs. Had zero thoughts about being in this business. So I went to law school with the thought that I would slowly migrate myself over onto the business side. So I practiced law at Lock Lord for a number of years,
sure,
and then
right.
and then I went in house with the Dallas Morning News and was corporate counsel for BELO for a few years, and then had a chance during the internet boom to jump into a startup. And that was my first startup, and then and then later on had a chance to do a startup with my brother in the software business. We were in healthcare software, grew that up to a national company, and I had an idea to do another software company, and had quit my job, and I'd been planning this thing for years. But if anybody knows me well, I'm infamous for my extreme adult ADD. So if you know folks with this condition, you're either passionate about something or you're not, right? So I sat down and try to get my software company started. And after about a month, I realized that what I'd been planning for years, my mind was just not passionate about it. I was like, I have no idea why it's not kicking in, but it's not working. So I decided to just take a sabbatical. And if I was going to stay home, had young kids, and I said I'm going to stay home. I'll pick up a chore, and so I decided to cook, to make dinner. And as soon, and I had not made anything before that. I was not a cook at all. But as soon as I started cooking, my ADD just lit up, hyper focus, and I just went nuts. So every morning, woke up, got out the recipe books, went shopping, and I cooked a 4 or 5 course meal every single day for about 9 months, and just went nuts with it. And then after about 9 months, I just thought, I have no idea why I love this so much, but I'm going to just lean into it. And I said, I'm going to go open a late night pho place, because that's my number one favorite food. Pizza my second, by the way, close second. And so 3 months after I made that decision, I opened up the Zalat on Fitzhugh, not knowing anybody in the industry, didn't have I didn't know a GM to hire or even a server. I put a notice on Craigslist and learned that the 3 people I'd hired had no cooking experience to speak of. So I had to come up with the entire menu myself. I did every job, dishwashing to have to come up with the bar menu and all that stuff. And that's how that happened. And I learned lots of lessons of what not to do in that first couple of years at Zalat. It almost killed me, as everybody, who has run a restaurant knows. My God, it's difficult, right? It's unrelenting.
What's fascinating here is that all three, well, maybe not so much David, but you kind of backed into, David was kind of raised in the restaurant industry. The other two of you kind of backed into it in a way. So it's encouraging, I think, for the individual who may be watching this going, I need to do something. What do I do? And so the lesson here is that if you've got the drive and perhaps a little bit of the ADD, you can advance and build a business, correct? So you were there operating Zalat, and then a pizza place that had been next door closed, and you said, "Oh, I can pick that up," right?
So they closed, and like I said, it's my second favorite thing to eat. And they went down, and I told my folks, hey, it seemed like they weren't going to make it, and so I said, just watch out if they close down. Give me a call. I'll call the landlord and see what we can do in the pizza space. And so about maybe 6 or 9 months later, they closed. I was able to pick up the lease, and then my ADD kicked in again. So I think I gained 20 pounds on developing each menu. So I don't think I can do another concept because I don't think my body can take it. But 6 months straight of just intense, we did a batch a day of dough for 6 months. We spent a month on that sauce. It just, when I get engaged, it's just until I'm done, I'm just not done. So.
Well, and I give you points. All three of you create very innovative pizza toppings, and Khanh, some of yours are delicious. I've enjoyed pizza from all three businesses. One of the other things I will say about all three of your enterprises is that you're all three really great corporate citizens. You're good neighbors. You contribute. David, when I was talking with some colleagues about Fratelli, they would say, "Oh, they've been so good to Irving." And I know, Sammy, with the Greenville Avenue community, and Khanh, you've helped us out several times. All three of you have helped us out trying to make some things happen. So you're embedded in the community as well as feeding us, and that's really wonderful. One more question of you, Khanh. Talk to me about pizza at night. We've already heard David and Sammy talk about late night pizza. Pizza at night and seasonal sales. I reached out to you, I think, before Christmas, and Tricia said, "Oh, not right now. This is our busiest time of the year." I want to know a little bit about the rhythms of pizza sales. It was more busy during the holiday season. Were you busy crazy yesterday? Are you going to be busy crazy on the 7th? And is it nighttime more than day?
I think we're shifting a little bit this year. It seems that our typically for us, I tell our folks, we're very busy on days when people go out. And when we first started in the pizza business, my thought was, hey, Super Bowl's got to be the biggest day, and then sporting events. For us in particular, just because of our type of pizza, and we try to be in the premium pizza space. With a really high quality product and great tasting. And so for us, we found that for the holidays where people are actually inviting their friends over, and they've got to buy 10, 20 pizzas, they're going to go to the chains with their, I don't know if the other two folks there, you guys are probably in the same boat with high quality pizzas. When it seems that when you're feeding your friends, you're going to go pretty cheap. And so it's going to be, here's 20 pizzas for $5.99 each. And hey, just eat that while, if you have the Super Bowl. But for us, any holiday where people are out partying and because we're open so late, that's our busiest day. So usually our busiest day of the year is either Halloween or New Year's Eve. And this past year it was Halloween by a wide margin. I don't know why, but Halloween we just get absolutely killed. But this year it seems like there's always the cycles. You're super busy for New Year's Eve, and then New Year's resolutions kick in. And pizza is probably the number one on the, on the hit list of, hey, I'm going to lose weight and I'm not going to eat pizza. And so there's always a softening in the first couple of weeks. And then there's a little bit of a blip, right? Somewhere right after that. And then by the third week, everybody's given up. So by the third week of January, forget it, it's done. So this year, we just had, this past weekend was the weekend. So we had a couple of soft weeks and we had a monster week this past week. It bested all of our December week. So out of nowhere, we weren't expecting it to be so heavy, but it was. But yeah, it's very cyclic in terms of I think it goes with most restaurants, right? The school cycles and summer vacations. It's been weird because of the pandemic, of course, but there are cycles.
Okay, well, here's some 3 interesting questions I want to ask you that have come in from some of the people who are watching. One is, what back of house innovations have you seen emerge in 2020? And what back of house innovations do you see emerging in 2021 and beyond? Anything new trends in back of house? I guess that's what BOH means, right?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody back of house innovations that have evolved over the course of during the pandemic and what you see might be coming in place for the coming year? Or is it pretty much standard operating procedure back there?
I mean, I would say that I don't see any, new revolutionary like equipment coming out, but, as far as like packaging goes, I mean, if it pertains to that type of question, I mean, I think we've all seen that there is a big emphasis on packaging trying to be more, moisture absorbent, or, having the seals already attached on them so that it's tamper proof. I mean, I'm seeing a lot more advertisements of that type of stuff coming out, and I'm seeing people jump on trying to pitch that stuff. But if that answers the question, I don't know if you guys have.
Are you getting much push about recyclable materials and less plastic products, less styrofoam, and more recyclable? Or it's so expensive, I know, but are you getting any of that environmental pressure? Not so much.
We've had people, environmental groups contact us, but we're hyper focused on our menu. So we basically don't do anything except pizzas.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
our only product is the box. And as I'm sure you guys saw the recent study, the pizza box is completely recyclable, even if there's grease in there. Our main product or packaging is recyclable.
Okay. Here's another good question from a restaurant consultant that some of us know. When the pandemic is over and dining rooms are fully open and everybody else is still in the delivery business, what steps are you going to take to stay strong? When the restaurants open back up and they're seating all their tables, but they're still delivering as well, and you've largely relied upon delivery to survive, how are you going to stay strong, David?
Well, first thing, if I know all the restaurateurs that are my buddies, if their dining rooms are full and they have a line like they used to, they're not going to care about delivery as much as they are right now. They're doing delivery to survive. They're restaurateurs, so they want the people in their face. They want to talk to the people. They want the relationship with the customers. Therefore, they're gonna tend to those sheep. And if they're gonna have delivery, they're probably gonna allow that to go to the side and continue to do third-party delivery, where us that are in the delivery business will continuously stay strong and keep our people sharp so that we're getting perfect service every time. So we just got to keep doing what we're doing and just keep marketing and stay relevant. And I think we'll be okay.
Okay, interesting. Here's another interesting question somebody asked. For those of you that have the license, are you also pushing delivery of beer and wine with your pizza? Is that something you can even do? I don't even know. Sammy?
Yeah, I was gonna say, so, you know, all of our locations have a dine-in element. And because of that, we do have a beer and wine license. And we will be working to deliver beer and wine as well in the future. I haven't done it yet. We at GAPCo, the increase in we do everything: dine in, to go, pick up, third party, our own drivers. We do it all. So we're really kind of struggling right now with the increase in third party and just everybody's still eating at home. And we're really just kind of focused on trying to properly handle that, as well as get our dining rooms ready for when people do start coming back in. And we're struggling because this part of the year has been really busy, but it is something we plan on doing soon.
Okay. And here's another interesting question, actually, too. I'll kind of bundle them together. Someone asks about pizza robots and vending machines, and then someone asks about ghost kitchens. So as we shift away from the human interaction and away from the storefront towards mechanics, and I saw another phrase for ghost kitchens this week, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. What is that going to do to affect your business, Khanh?
So I'll try to keep it short, but there's a fantastic story involving pizza robots. I'm sure the pizza guys followed it, but about maybe 5 years ago, somebody on the West Coast, I think it's in Silicon Valley, came up with the idea that they were going to build a pizza robot that could make a pizza and put it inside a delivery truck so that you could order the pizza and the truck could be coming towards you and the robot is in the back making the pizza and it'll be ready when you get there. And of course, you know, we're in the big pizza business. So I'm like, wait a second, you're going to take the expensive equipment that you have that can produce, you know, hundreds of orders of pizzas, and you're going to take that and put it on a truck and go deliver one pizza, right? I mean, the first I heard, I'm like, come on, you're not serious about this. That's an insane business model. But apparently, the guy went and delivered it to, I forget who it was, but the CEO of SoftBank, that giant tech private equity fund, and it went to his house, made him a pizza, and he's like, "Oh, this is fantastic." They put, I want to say, close to $1 billion or something into this business, and and the end result a couple of years later was when they were driving the trucks around. This is what I read in the stories about this. Whenever they took a turn, the sauce and the cheese and everything went everywhere. And so they had to park all of these trucks and then get other cars to go and deliver the pizzas. So and apparently the pizzas were mediocre, right? So I think we all know, you know, in until they can figure out a robot that can do all the nuances of what our we call them our zealots, right? There is so much when they say they can taste the love in food. It really means somebody who cares and is tending to that food product to get the maximum flavor out of it, right? Because just 10 seconds extra on the heat, a little bit of a turn here or there, that's where all the flavor comes out. And the human aspect of this is very, very important if you're trying to not do a mediocre product. And so for us, that's why we call our guys the zealots. And so we tell them, hey, we need you to be completely focused on every pizza that we make. Just take care of that, and we'll take care of you.
What about ghost kitchens, David or Sammy? Are they going to be bumping up where this invisible business enterprise, or somebody just, I start a business tomorrow, but I'm tapping into a ghost kitchen. I'm having other people, and I just stamp my name on it. Is that going to be competition for you, or is that kind of like what Khan's talking about with the Zalats? Same thing, that human touch, the brand, the Fratelli brand, the GAPCo brand. You're just not going to be able to match that through an anonymous ghost kitchen. You think so, David?
Well, I think that if you want to do delivery, third-party delivery only, and you don't want to do any pickup, then you could work a pizza place out of a ghost kitchen. But I think mainly the ghost kitchen is for multiple concepts under one veil, and they can make all the food in one kitchen and then they can deliver it, or for catering and that sort of thing, that they don't need a storefront. But for us that are neighborhood guys, I've been to both of their locations, and they're in heavy neighborhoods. The Cedar, I went to Lamar to the Cedars at Max's, and I went to Lois Greenville on a Saturday afternoon, and it was beautiful weather, and they're neighbors and they're a community, and it's people all around. And you don't get that at a ghost kitchen. That's for introverted, kind of those space age chefs that want to be in a kitchen by themselves, cooking up whatever they cook out, and then they don't want to deal with the public, so they can send it out.
Oh, very interesting. Sammy, what do you think about that?
Yeah, and I mean, I guess this is, I know you said we could ask questions to each other, but I had a question for Khanh, because I struggle with this. So, I mean, Khanh, at your locations, you can walk in to pick up, but I know that you get referred to as a ghost kitchen.
Yeah.
And so I sometimes get confused with that, because I kind of think like David does, a ghost kitchen in my eyes is a place that you really can't just walk into.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, let me answer that. So I consider ghost kitchens, in reference to us, it's really more of a marketing term. We actually don't refer to ourselves as a ghost kitchen, because all of our restaurants, you can walk up. We do plenty of pickup orders, and we love the customer interaction. But if you really think about what in its purest sense, what is a ghost kitchen? It is a kitchen where you don't have that much interaction with the customers, and you're selling online. To me, it really is about the online aspect of the sales. And to be honest, most pizza restaurants that aren't these huge sit down like CPK or something like that are really already ghost kitchens, right? The Pizza Hut, or the chains, and us. Most of our sales are coming, probably 90% plus of our sales are coming online. And to me, that aspect is really the ghost kitchen part. Is somebody is buying over the web, and somebody is picking it up, or you're delivering. We don't have our own drivers, so we're 100% third party delivery. But that's the part that makes it like a ghost kitchen. But in all honesty, if you look at a Papa John's or a Domino's, they've been ghost kitchens all along, right? You order from Domino's, you don't know where the store is, right? You just go on and order it. So that's what I consider. There are nuances to the phrase, and for me, what it really means is, where are your sales coming from? And if it's mostly web-based, and that's where you're making your money, that's what I consider a ghost kitchen.
Okay, very interesting, very interesting. I'm going to ask one other question and then wrap up. I'll ask it of each of you. Why do people love pizza so much? David?
I think it's because it's a lot of flavors in one. Everybody works hard on their crust, and then they work hard on their sauce, and then they spend hours and hours trying to figure out a moistureless cheese and less greasy. And then, Khanh has beef pepperoni, which I don't know if that costs more than pork pepperoni, but I know that we use one pepperoni, but we don't want to use any other pepperonis because they shrink and they puddle and those sort of things. So there's a lot of many aspects of a pizza that we put our love into those, is which a term that Khanh used earlier. And I think that comes out in the product. And I think that's what it is. If they just went and got pizza out of a vending machine, it's probably not going to taste very good. And they probably won't eat it as much as they would of an independent pizza maker.
Gotcha. Sammy, why do people love pizza?
I love this question because I do talk about this because it's bread and cheese.
Yeah, how can you go
Everybody
wrong?
loves bread and cheese. You can't hurt that. Everybody loves that. So bread and cheese.
Okay, Khanh?
You know what? I've thought about it, and I think it really is the combination of both of their answers, right? So you've got bread, which is, you know, a huge part of it. That's why the crust is so important. But you've got, and then on top of that, you have a chance to, within reason, in terms of the flavor profile, you have a chance to do so much on top of the bread and cheese, right? There's so many different flavors with the protein and the vegetables and the flavor combinations. You can go so many different ways. And when you go back to the bread and cheese and the sauce, it's just a very comforting food. And I think that's part of why it's done so well in the pandemic. We all needed a food hug. And, I think, I didn't think that my pizza consumption could have gone up more, but I'm sure I ate a whole lot more pizza over the past year than the prior years. It's comfort food.
Okay. So
let me say
this
this.
is wrapping up. I'm going to have to kind of close up, but I do want, here's a commercial plug. Fratelli, IFRATLLI.com.
.net.
.net. Okay. Sammy, what's your URL, your website?
GAPC.co.
Okay, GAPC for Greenville Avenue Pizza.co. Okay, gotcha. And Khanh, you are?
Zalatpizza.com.
Zalatpizza.com. I'm hungry, so I think somebody's going to get an order today from me. I'd like to thank David Cole, Sammy Mandell, and Khanh Nguyen. Thank you for joining us for this Zoominar. Our next Zoominar will be February 9th. You can go to 24hourdallas.org right now and sign up for it. It's the name of it is In the Black. It is about Black-owned businesses that are successful at night. We're going to look at 3 Black-owned businesses in Dallas that have predominantly Black customer base, and they're going to share some of their insights and inspirations about how to succeed at all hours of the day. Again, that'll be February 9th. We'll have a guest host this time. I'm beginning to bring other volunteers from 24 Hour Dallas on to help me manage the Zoominars. Ruben Lyell from the board will be one of our guest hosts. I would encourage you again to become a member of 24 Hour Dallas. We're trying to just help imagine a safer, more vibrant, more inclusive Dallas at night, especially as we emerge from the pandemic. We've got some interesting things in the works, including an opportunity we think Khanh and I talked about an opportunity to initiate a campaign to get the nighttime workforce vaccinated for COVID. We may be able to do that. We'll talk more about that later this week. Annual dues on the 24 Hour Dallas are $25 for an individual or $100 for an organization. Go to 24hourdallas.org. Join us. Thank you for being with us today. My name again is Randall White. Thank you, gentlemen. May we all remain safe, productive, and really happy about where we work and live and socialize. Thanks again, guys.
I enjoyed it. Great meeting you guys.
There you go.